Let's go through some of the people that fought in this war that most people don't know about, because these are some interesting stories.
Well, let's also talk about all the people who signed the Declaration of Independence. I think 2 of them rescinded their signatures, but virtually everyone that signed that
ended up dead or poor.
Dead or penniless.
Yep.
Just think about it. There's no happy ending for heroes.
Their life, their blood, and their sacred honor.
Yeah. There is no happy ending for heroes. So you need to know that if you're going to, take that step forward to be the hero, you're going to pay a horrible price. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get all.
No, that's okay.
Doom and gloom.
That's okay. I started thinking.
I
went down the thinky hole.
I could smell the smoke.
Yeah, there you go. 6 unsung heroes of the American Revolution, from an asthmatic Quaker to a notorious traitor. 6 amateur soldiers. Let's see what we got. That guy looks healthy.
Yeah. He looks like he has a face-wrist disconnect problem.
Henry Knox. From Henry Knox's days as a street teenager brawler in Boston, fighting was in his blood. Although the co-founder of the Boston Grenadier Corps lacked a military education, he knew where to find it, on the shelves of his shop, the London Bookstore. The plump 24-year-old bookseller quickly impressed General George Washington when he arrived in 1775 to take command of the Continental Army during the siege of Boston. Knox was really responsible for the Patriots' first victory when they forced the British out of Boston, according to Jack Kelly. Tasked with transporting cannons from the recently captured Fort Ticonderoga, Knox managed to move the heavy artillery over 300 miles of winter terrain using enormous ox-drawn sleds until they pointed at the British from Dorchester Heights. So 300 miles
on sleds,
1775,
being pulled by oxen.
Sledges being pulled by ox in that winter.
Yeah. Can anyone say that's gotta suck?
That's balls.
Yeah. No.
Gives a whole new meaning to the phrasing. Embrace the suck.
Yeah,
it does. It does indeed, and it also demonstrates the kind of things that we used to be capable of. Somebody would look at that today and wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
Would not even know where to begin. But it also brings up another thing that I want to point out, because I want to point it out more than once here. The federal government, even today, has no mandate to stand up an army, and nobody knows this. There is no mandate to stand up an army. The states were supposed to provide the regiments, and that's how it always worked. Private landowners would as well.
Yeah.
There were regiments forwarded by wealthy men who would provide for that regiment's weapons, uniforms.
Well, if you look back to the Spanish
and everything,
the Spanish-American War, all of those soldiers were basically civilians that went there to go fight.
State regiments.
Yeah, state regiments.
Or regiments of wealthy dudes.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah. To this day, though.
But they did have Marines.
Oh, no, the Marines and the Navy are are the legitimate armed forces of the United States of America. There has never been, though, a mandate for an army.
Well, we got one.
We just have one.
Yeah. We also pay taxes that was never passed either.
No. Which is an entirely different episode. Tasked with transporting the captains from the region past ox sleds until they reached Dorchester Heights and forced to evacuate. Washington, who Kelly says had an extraordinary knack for reading men and sensing ability, chose Knox over more experienced veterans as his chief artillery officer. Now, this is the sign of a really good leader every single time.
Yes.
A leader who knows that he's got guys in his ranks who can do the job and doesn't try to do everything himself.
Or he doesn't pay it. You don't pay attention to rank.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've actually picked junior
What's that
guys.
Thing you say?
What?
What's that thing you say? A good idea has no rank.
Yeah, no rank. Yeah.
Yep.
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're running the show here. What's going on?
So Washington chose Knox over more experienced veterans as chief artillery officer, and artillery at the time was known as the king of battle. There are songs about it. We used to sing those songs, marching in formation.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not the guy that Fort Knox is named after?
I do not know, but it is very possible. Knox managed the logistics for Washington's crossing of the Delaware River and ran the siege at Yorktown that forced the British to surrender. Washington's trusted advisor also served as the first Secretary of War for the new United States of America.
That's fucking... I didn't even know that guy existed.
And neither did
That's
I.
badass.
Yeah. Nathaniel Greene.
I've heard of this guy.
Well, I've heard his name, but this I didn't know. Was the unlikeliest of military heroes, born a Quaker, raised a pacifist, and afflicted with asthma. Look up Alvin York from World War I.
Yep.
The Rhode Island native was even denied election as an officer in the Kentish Guard militia he helped to form in 1774 because of his pronounced limp. Greene, however, taught himself to be a great soldier by reading books on military tactics, leadership, and fortifications that he had purchased from Knox
Yeah.
on trips to Boston and caught Washington's eye. This is why I read the Greeks all the time. This is what they would have been reading.
Yep.
All of those Polybius, the histories, is all of the battles and all of that stuff. That's where it is.
Yep.
Read Polybius. It's good for you. He had never been in a battle in his life, yet Washington saw his talent. Greene was appointed the youngest brigadier general in the Continental Army in 1775 and was promoted to major general under Washington the following year. Today, that is an actual impossibility to be just promoted to general.
Yeah, you're not walking in as... Well, if you're trans, maybe they'll do that today.
A trans-Indonesian Panamanian midget with one leg.
Well, we have a trans admiral.
Not really an admiral.
I know, but they still appointed him honoring admiral.
I know. The same with Rupert Darfur Murphy, the Surgeon General.
I mean, you can take an enlisted guy and make him a second or first lieutenant.
That's a Mustang.
Yeah. You can take a captain and promote him no more than 2 ranks up.
Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah, a general could, like, if you're a captain kicking ass and a bunch of people get whacked, he could walk up, all right, Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
That does happen.
Yeah.
It happened a lot in World War II.
Yeah. So Greene was appointed the youngest brigadier general in the Army in 1775. He was promoted to major general under Washington the following year. After successes at Trenton and Germantown, Greene served ably as a quartermaster after Valley Forge and as commander-in-chief of the Southern Army in a campaign that forced British commander Charles Lord Cornwallis, who was a serious badass.
Yeah.
Cornwallis was one of the best British generals out of the Carolinas as a prelude to Yorktown. He was thought of so highly that it was traditionally thought that Washington would have chosen Greene to be commander-in-chief of the Continental Army had anything happened to him.
In the movie Patriot, he was going against Cornwallis.
Yes, exactly. Cornwallis was a bad MF. That was Francis Marion, the Scots, the Swamp Fox.
Yep.
John Stark, not to be confused with Tony Stark. When news of the shots fired at Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775, reached John Stark, the 46-year-old farmer and sawmill operator immediately recruited 400 men and marched to Boston. That's a regiment. He just formed a regiment just like that.
Holy shit.
Hey, let's do a regiment. Let's go. All right, let's go. All right. That's crazy.
Wow. 400 motherfuckers.
400 motherfuckers just like that. That's crazy. The French and Indian War veteran led his regiment into the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17, 1775, and posted them in a noticeable gap in the Patriots' defense, from which they prevented the British from getting around the American line. Flanking at that time was a death sentence.
Yes.
If you got flanked, you're
done.
You're done. If the British had gotten into the rear, the Patriots would have been routed. There you have it. So Stark saved the day at Bunker Hill. While the Patriots ultimately lost the battle thanks to Stark, they inflicted severe casualties on the British. 2 years later, Stark's militia stopped the momentum of the British advance from Canada at the Battle of Bennington. When the elderly Stark sent his regrets for his inability to attend an 1809 reunion of veterans from that battle, he closed with the exhortation, "Live free or die," which remains the motto of New Hampshire to this day.
Wow.
So that's where that comes from. John Stark, not to be confused with Tony Stark.
Yeah, that's a bad motherfucker.
It is a bad motherfucker. I don't want to sign up for your thing.
Well, first of all, if you have the charisma to raise 400 dudes.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Especially back then when you
Yeah.
don't have Facebook and you can't like get on and use
Yeah.
your
I mean,
400 followers.
You got to pay attention to men like that.
Yeah.
Because one, they're rare.
Yes.
Two, they're excessively useful.
Yes.
In fact, I would argue they're indispensable.
I would agree.
So,
Daniel Morgan was a natural fighter. He grew up on the frontier and for fun fought in no holds barred brawls. Welcome to Detroit on a Friday night in the 1980s. In the summer of 1775, the Rowdy Virginia answered the call for volunteers and commanded the first troops specifically recruited for a national army by the Continental Congress. Morgan's group of backwoods Virginia riflemen participated in the siege of Boston and answered Washington's call for recruits in the failed invasion of Canada. I didn't know there was an invasion of Canada.
Oh, they toyed with it. It was logistically impossible, and it was a massive failure.
All they would have gotten out of it is some Molson and some Moose.
Yeah, they got some good beer.
Maple
I guess
syrup.
It is what it is.
French chicks.
Eh.
More trouble than they're worth.
They smell.
Morgan's group of backwoods Virginia riflemen participated in the siege of Boston and answered Washington's call for recruits in the failed invasion of Canada. Nicknamed Old Wagoner for his work driving supplies during the French and Indian War, Morgan spent a year as a prisoner of war after being captured in Quebec in December of 1775. Receiving the rank of colonel after his release, Morgan fought at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777. 3 years later, he was promoted to brigadier general and given command of Light Infantry Corps during the Southern Campaign. Ooh, they were using light infantry by that time.
Well, yeah. Well, if that's all you got. That's all you got.
Describe light infantry for the kiddies out there.
Well, light infantry is basically you got what you got on your back. The only weapon you have is the one you carry into battle. You're not getting supplies or any of that horse shit. It is you against them and the elements. Pretty much.
We had 3 divisions of light infantry. Now we only have 1. 2-5.
Oh, okay.
25th at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. 7th Infantry
It's gone.
is gone.
7th ID, I believe, is gone. 9th ID is gone.
And
I was
9th
there
ID.
at their deactivation ceremony.
Yeah, 7th ID was Fort Ord. They were decommissioned in 93. I was part of the BRAC when I got to Monterey.
Now, listen.
When we were on casual for 2 months, we were cleaning up Fort Ord.
If it kicks off, they're going to pull flags out and reactivate divisions.
Yeah.
So I know the 7th and the 9th are going to be probably 2 of the ones that are going to be stood up first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Light infantry is incredibly useful. The 7th used to have a thing, I forget what they called it, but they had a freaking 100-miler that they would do with just the infantry guys, and they would march from Ord to another camp way down the coast and back. And they do it over a couple of days. You're not doing 100 miles.
No, you're not doing 100 miles.
You're not doing 100-miler.
You have a hard time doing 30 in a day.
The longest I ever did was 24, and that beat my ass. We got to the end of it, and I was like,
I think I was 32 miles.
Yeah. But you were a fucking long tabber and a ranger and all that stuff. We were just freaking commo guys. So anyway, 3 years later, he was promoted to brigadier general and given the command of the Light Infantry Corps. His most memorable victory came in January 17th, 1781, with a stunning triumph at the Battle of Cowpens in South Carolina. When I was a kid in school, we studied the Battle of Cowpens, but I can't remember any of it anymore. We studied a bunch of the major battles of the Revolutionary
But that one was like towards the end of the war.
Yeah.
I think that was the end of the war.
1781.
Yeah.
Anthony Wayne. Sounds like he should be like a rapper with P.
Well, we used to have Fort Wayne here in Michigan.
We still have Fort Wayne. Yeah, it's in Detroit.
Yeah.
It's still there. The fort is still there.
The
actual fort is still there.
It is still there?
It's still there.
I thought they tore that motherfucker down.
Nope.
Man, I'm out of touch.
Fort Wayne is
Make
still
this
there.
a summer to share and
What?
save during the Kia Summer
I
Sticker
don't want
Sales
you to do
event
that.
in the 3-row
Stop
Kia
that.
Sorrento.
Nobody asked you. Sorry about
Shut up. Who wants the Kia?
that. Anthony Wayne's schoolmaster said he would never become a scholar, but he thought perhaps he could become a soldier because of how he organized all of the schoolboys in mock battles and attacks. There you go.
Can't do that today.
The
It's toxic
schoolmaster,
masculinity.
exactly. The schoolmaster proved prescient. We used to organize into little groups in grade school on the playground, and either kick the snot out of each other or play kickball or Red Rover.
Dirt clod fights.
Dirt clod fights was another popular one. He led his men against the British at Brandywine and Germantown near his boyhood home before spending the winter at Valley Forge. In 1779, Washington ordered Wayne to storm the seemingly impregnable cliffside fortifications held by the British at Stony Point, New York. Have you ever seen those cliffs?
Yes.
There's something else.
Well, I call New York red trash land for a reason. And, you're so isolated in some of those areas. I couldn't even imagine living back in the day before they had roads.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Fuck that noise.
Nice. The daring nighttime assault. Ooh, he did a night assault. At that time, that was exceedingly rare.
Well, you would have to.
The daring nighttime assault, in which his men employed only bayonets as weapons, lasted a mere 30 minutes and earned the brigadier general the moniker of Mad Anthony Wayne. He took a cliff fortification at night in 1779
With
no
knives.
dogs, no climbing ropes, and just went up there with knives and got dirty.
With knives.
That's bad.
Yeah. That's a badass right
Anthony Wayne. I did not know that story. Dude, bayonets. 30 minutes he took that place.
Well, bayonets.
They must have just gone through and just...
They had to catch him by surprise.
Yeah.
They caught him by surprise.
Yeah,
That's the
they
only
had
way.
to have caught him.
That's the only way you're doing that in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Once the battle starts and it's over in 30 minutes, it's got to be by surprise.
The notorious Benedict Arnold.
Now, in regards to Benedict,
Everybody knows the name.
we know the name. Then they fucked him over hard, though. So,
I don't know the whole story. I just know his name is synonymous.
they
with
owed him a
being
bunch of
traitor.
money. He was supposed to get a couple different commands. They were just fucking 3-shell monting his ass.
Nice.
And he went over to the other side, which I believe he regretted for the rest of his days. But we're not going to read about old Benedict.
We're you know what? We are at 9:13 right now. I think it's time we go into the medals of honor.
The medals of honor.
Where should we
Start off with Civil War A through L.
go? All right. Additional Medal of Honor resources. Civil War A through L. Are the stories attached?
No, they're condensed but you can get the gist of what's going on. Like some of these guys, were capturing enemy flags, and I know it sounds stupid.
In the day, it was a big deal.
But yeah,
You took a guide on, that was a big deal.
like you're literally going against hundreds of guys with muskets, and then somehow you get there. Yeah, it was a huge morale.
They would
hit.
defend that flag ferociously.
Yeah.
To lose your flag was a huge dishonor. It was not quite to the level of a Roman eagle, but yeah, they made a big deal out of it. Adams.
Read Aston Charles. He's down about
Aston Charles.
Yeah.
Okay, you have specific ones you want to see. Anderson.
It's down. It's down there.
Aston Charles?
You missed it.
How did I miss it?
Ah,
Yeah, Charles Aston.
Yeah.
See, you're saying Aston Charles, and I'm looking for the name Charles.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Rank and organization. Quarter gunner, United States Navy, born 1834, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Technically a Canadian, but that's cool. Accredited to Illinois, GO number 45, 31 December 1864, citation. Served on board USS Signal Red River, 5 May 1864. Proceeding up the Red River, the USS Signal engaged a large force of enemy field batteries and sharpshooters, returning their fire until the Federal ship was totally disabled, at which time the white flag was raised. Although on the sick list, Aston courageously carried out his duties during the entire engagement. A lot of people don't know that there were quite a few naval battles during the Civil War.
The reason I picked this one is the guy was fucking in bed, fucked up.
Yeah.
He got up and fuck this.
Yeah.
and just he went fucking total beast mode.
Let's just grab this guy right below here, Thomas Atkinson, Rank and organization, yeoman, U.S. Navy, born 1824, Salem, Massachusetts, accredited to Massachusetts, GO number 45, 31 December 1864. Again, a naval incident. On board the USS Richmond, Mobile Bay, that's in Alabama. 5 August 1864, commended for coolness and energy in supplying the rifle ammunition which was under his sole charge in the action in Mobile Bay on the morning of 5 August 1864. They've got 1964.
Yeah, they fucked that up.
He was a petty officer on board the U.S. frigate Congress in 1842 to 1846, was present and assisted in capturing the whole of the Buenos Aires fleet, the vessel of Montevideo, joined the Richmond in September 1860. He was in action with Fort McRae, the head of the passes in the Mississippi, Forts Jackson and St. Phillips, the Calmettes, the rebel ironclads and gunboats below New Orleans, Vicksburg, Port Hudson, and the surrender of New Orleans. So that looks like a bunch of confusing gobbledygook. Let me break it out for you. The Argentinians were assisting the Southerners at one point.
Yep.
Because of shipping and trading agreements. The Union Navy was down in the Mobile Bay area, which is off the Gulf Coast, interdicting all of these Confederate vessels, and he participated in the surrender of New Orleans, which was a huge blow to the South because that was their big shipping port.
Yep.
Again, most people don't know how many naval battles there were.
There's a whole ton of them. Have you ever read? It's about a guy who was on the Confederate side, old guy. And his two sons were killed by the Union and were decapitated. And then they took the heads of his sons and put them on the fence posts outside of his house.
That happened more than once,
but
that kind of thing.
This is what he did. He sold all his shit, sent his family to another neutral location, had a custom-made 50 caliber black powder rifle made.
Nice.
And then went to town. And he's credited for actually causing a vessel to surrender with nothing more than a rifle.
Interdasting.
Yeah, and literally he was out one of the rivers, I think it was Ohio River. There was like a Y where the boats had to fight against the current to get up. And that son of a bitch whacked like 60, 70 people on that ship.
Imagine the amount of ammo and how he would have had to carry that. Because it's not a 5.56 round where you can carry 30 rounds in a mag.
Yeah, that's a lot of gunpowder you put in there too.
Yeah.
And
you've got the wadding, you've got the powder, you've got the shot.
Yeah, it would make a great Hollywood movie. I got the book upstairs. I just don't remember the guy's name.
That'd be awesome. That'd be freaking awesome. Let's go down further here. Let's see if we can find a juicy one.
Do the Baldwin Charles.
Baldwin Charles, rank and organization, coal heaver, United States Navy, Delaware, credited Pennsylvania, citation, serving on board the USS Wyalusing and participating in a plan to destroy the rebel-ran Albemarle in Roanoke River, 25 May 1864, volunteering for the hazardous mission. C.H. Baldwin participated in the transfer of 2 torpedoes across an island swamp. Weighted by a line which was used to transfer the torpedoes, he swam the river and when challenged by a sentry was forced to abandon the plan after erasing its detection and before it could be carried to completion. Escaping the fire of the muskets, C.H. Baldwin spent 2 days and nights of hazardous travel without food and finally arrived fatigued at the mother ship. This guy was dragging torpedoes through a swamp with a rope.
And getting shot at.
And getting shot at in the process. Now, he didn't complete the mission, but crap, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll just swim these torpedoes across the swamp.
But the thing is this is the American Civil War. Tactics had to change because the weapons became just way more dangerous.
Yeah.
Back in the Revolutionary War, the muskets were unrifled. In the American Civil War, every rifle had rifling. There was no muskets.
I don't know about every, but I would say the great majority of them.
I could be
A lot
wrong
of
there.
people trotted our antiques out.
But here's the thing. You get hit with a mini ball
Mhm.
and it doesn't kill you. Something on your body is getting cut off.
Best we could do is cut it off.
Yeah.
The best we can do. Exactly.
So, I mean, after this, and medical technology was a lot better than it was during the Revolutionary War.
Yes.
So you got to see the effects, the wounded people after the war for decades.
Yep. I mean,
True story.
then again, there still was the sterilization process and all that, and the best anesthetic they had was here, bite on this piece of twig.
Well, towards the end of the Civil War, they did have chloroform, but it was exceedingly rare
Yep.
to get your hands on.
A lot of new medical techniques came out of the Civil
Yes,
War.
if
A
you
lot
go
of
to
new military medical techniques.
and you know what, I spent I think 6 to 8 weeks at Walter Reed when I came back from Iraq,
Mhm.
and I went through that the hospital museum.
Oh yeah,
at least
yeah,
half
they
a
did
dozen
cool
times.
museum there. I've heard that.
It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
they
some
had-
really cool stuff in there.
They had like pictures of dudes that were taken in like 1890, like 30 years after the war.
Mhm.
Like, guy didn't have a fucking jaw for decades.
Yeah.
Like,
Or the picture of the guy with the no eye,
yeah.
like part of his face is just not there at all.
And they still have bits and pieces in jars with alcohol and formaldehyde. Oh my God.
Jesse T. Baric, rank and organization corporal, Company H, 3rd Minnesota Infantry. There you go. Place and date near Duck River, Tennessee. Entered service at Fort Snelling, Rice County, Minnesota. Born 18 January 1841. Our little friend here is 22 years old. While on scout, captured single-handed 2 desperate Confederate guerrilla officers
Ooh.
who were together and well-armed at the time. That, on the battlefield, was a big prize, especially for an enlisted man to capture 2 officers.
Yeah, it's a huge boon.
Yes.
And listen, the write-ups, I'm sure, are bigger, but they kind of condensed them
Yes.
so they'd all fit in this database.
No.
But yeah. And
I am... There's an 1871 Korean War campaign? I did not know that.
did not know that either.
So, Civil War was the beginning of the
Medals of Honor.
Medals of Honor.
You know, the Purple Heart used to be the Medal of Honor for the Revolutionary War.
We got time to take a peek at like one more before we have to get on to the other.
Let's see if we can do a search for Sergeant York's.
Oh, that's World War I. That's easy. That's Alvin York. Boom, 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 boom. My commander in 1995.
There it is. They condensed it because his write-up is huge.
Huge. My commander in 1995 was a man named Mastriano, Doug Mastriano. He's now a senator in Pennsylvania. Then Captain Mastriano was a Sergeant York nutcase.
Really?
Absolutely. To the point where we discovered that Colonel York was at the Naval Postgrad School down below Presidio. He was a colonel in the Army. It was the grandson of the Alvin York.
Wow.
So we found this out. We tracked him down. We found him and we said, hey, our captain is batshit about your grandfather. Will you please come up and speak? And he said, certainly.
Nice.
So on like a Monday, a bunch of us basically went AWOL.
That happened.
Went down and picked the colonel up, which un-AWOL'd us because now we're escorting a colonel. And walked him into Captain Mastriano's office, who proceeded to act like a girl with the Beatles walking in. He didn't know whether to shit, go blind, or salute.
Wow.
And then Colonel York gave us a big speech on his grandfather and everything. And he said his grandfather was actually a very humble guy, didn't like to talk about the war, only really wanted to farm. But Captain Mastriano would then go on to write Alvin York, a new biography of the hero of the Argonne. And if you want to read a good history of Alvin York, that's the one to read. It's by Doug Mastriano.
And another thing is when World War II kicked off, he went to the recruiting station and they turned him away. They're like, no, you're good.
Yeah.
You've done enough.
That's true. That's true. His grandson mentioned that. Colonel York mentioned that. Yeah, you've done your time. Rank and organization, Corporal United States Army. He was a conscientious objector. He did not want to go to war. 328th Infantry, 82nd. Place and date near Châtel-Chehery, France, 8 October 1918. Entered service at Pall Mall, Tennessee. After his platoon suffered heavy casualties at the hands of 3 machine gun nests, I happen to know this, and 3 other non-commissioned officers had become casualties, Corporal York assumed command. Fearlessly leading 7 men, he charged with great daring a machine gun nest. He charged 3 machine gun nests, which was pouring deadly and accurate fire upon his platoon. In his heroic feat, the machine gun nest was taken together with 4 officers and 128 men and several guns. Now, York was a Kentucky backwoods shooter. What he was doing, and his grandfather talked about this, and it's in the book as well,
shooting the head
is
off
the
turkeys.
Germans realized that somebody was coming at him from behind, these 7 guys with York. He was country shooting.
Yep.
When you got a flock of turkeys, you don't shoot the bird in front because everybody else scatters. He was picking off the guy at the back.
Yep.
As they aggressed him, as they came toward him, he was shooting the guy at the back. So the guys in the front were like, he's missing. So they kept coming, not realizing that their numbers were being thin the whole time. And this guy, did not miss.
Nope.
Did not miss. York's story is fascinating. I forget who did the original black and white movie, but that is worth doing. Audie Murphy.
Yeah, Audie Murphy's another one.
Audie Murphy is a Medal of Honor winner himself. And he played Alvin York in the movie. So that's well worth watching.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.